Is it kind of visible? No, I think that this is better. This is the spot where I really like to sit to record a lot of my videos, is my comfy chair in front of my chalkboard wall in my office. But I have shitty light. This is the first time that I've experimented with bringing in one of the bedside lamps from my bedroom, from my nightstand. It's kind of a soft glow. It's not too harsh, I think. There's a shadow, obviously, which is not terribly, you know, hashtag aesthetic. At least it's not pitch black the way that it's been in some of my other videos before. Okay. Getting started. Hello there, my parasocial pals, and welcome back to my channel. If you're new here, thank you so much for joining us. My name is Chloe and I have no idea what I'm doing. Today, we're doing the booktube newbie tag. I've stuttered saying that so much. Booktube newbie tag, booktuber noober tag. You probably won't be able to notice this because you're not as neurotic as myself, but I can see the shadow of my cowlick. Ah! Look at that little piece of hair. What is this hair doing? I'm very close to needing to just chop off all this hair. It's getting too long. Oh my gosh, when I tell you, I tried to style my hair today and that little cowlick said, "You can't tell me what to do, you're not my real dad." And you know what? It's correct. I have a tendency to be very verbose and rambly and go for far longer than intended in these little sit chat videos, so I'm gonna do my best to just be to the point. I made notes on my telephone. Can I set the goal? Perhaps we can have this video be less than 20 minutes?
Honey, you've got a big storm coming.
I made a note to myself to, before I jump into the questions, to give a quick sort of overall hi, who am I? The quick stats of myself. My name is Chloe Payne. I live in Oregon. I'm 36 years old. I'm a trans person. I'm non-binary. My pronouns are they, them. I made notes. I should look at the notes. What else is a thing to know about me? I'm a performer by trade. I went to school for musical theater performance. And the goal, what I had always most wanted to do with that, was to be able to eke out a living by performing in theaters, like being on stage as opposed to like movies or commercials or anything else. Then a pandemic started and I am still trying to find my balance with being someone with a lot of medical anxiety, not necessarily being comfortable committing to long periods of time in like open theaters and not wanting to shape like a large part of my life around that anymore right now anyway. So right now, actually, I am really lucky. I have a work from home admin day job that allows me a lot of flexibility in other areas of my life. I'm having fun investing in my little YouTube hobby a little bit more now than I have in the past. And that's been the really good creative outlet for me while I haven't been doing theater stuff the way that I have been before. I am making the types of videos that I like to watch. That is really my only guiding compass. That's really the only thread that ties the whole narrative of my channel together. This is not exclusively a books only channel. Some of the other topics that I'm most interested in that I've been finding myself making videos about is beauty and makeup stuff, fan edits, like compilations of best moments from different fandoms that I follow stuff, and philosophical rambling in the middle of my office type stuff. Just rambling about my feelings in a diaristic fashion because I am a verbal processor and it's very helpful for me. And I like to watch other people have existential crises on the internet. I find that to be very comforting. So if you only really like to follow book channels that are exclusively about books and that post frequently about bookish topics, then I am probably not the channel for you. And that's totally fine, of course, no hard feelings. Thank you for having stopped by for this amount of stop by that you have. I've been getting into a somewhat pattern of posting about each of my interests on like a monthly-ish basis and kind of like rotating throughout the different things that are going on in my brain. If you, like me, enjoy channels that talk about more than just one thing, then I think that you'll have a good time here. The videos that I'll be posting about bookish stuff on maybe like a monthly-ish or so basis will be things like reading wrap-ups and reading vlogs and reading so-and-so's favorite books. Those are the types of booky-tubey topics that I like to watch the most. So I'm gonna have fun starting to experiment with making more stuff like that too.
But Chloe, if you're not exclusively a books-only channel, then why do the booktube newbie tag?
That's a fabulous question. Thank you so much for your interest. I'm about to jump into a period of time where there's gonna be more book stuff, maybe all at once on the channel than there has been previously. I'm about to be out for top surgery. I'm really lucky to be getting to head in for top surgery in a few weeks. So the channel is going to be dark for probably most of March. Then once I am back in April, I will be full of enthusiasm for making videos videos about likely all the books that I read to try to cope with my medical anxiety during my recovery period. So I figured that this would be a good time to do the newbie tag just to introduce myself and say hi and welcome you to subscribe if you would like to stick around for, I don't know what the hell my brain might come up with, post-top surgery reading wrap up of like, here are the books that I read while I was high, or reviewing the audiobook that helped me cope with physical therapy. I don't know. I don't know exactly what the topics will be, but there will be bookish topics. Plus, then you'll be around to start like, you know, hearing me talk about being on social media and starting like my slutty shirtless era. Won't that be great? Very bookish, very literary topic in my opinion. Oh, and then I forgot the next video after this one. I don't know if it'll be in a week or so. I'm trying to cram a bunch of videos in here before I have to start my time off for the top surgery. But the next video right after this one is going to be the first time that I'll be posting a I read so-and-so's new book reading vlog type video. So again, just seemed like a good moment to introduce myself and invite you to subscribe if you'd like to stick around for stuff like that. The video that is going to be posted after this one I think is a really good one. So I think that that's all the general kind of housekeeping stuff that I wanted to get out of the way. Again, if you've watched this far and you're thinking to yourself, this person doesn't really seem for me, then I hope that I've respected your time by giving you a somewhat idea of what you're in for if you continue watching. Let's jump into the questions. Why did I start this channel? A fair question. So I originally started this channel just in general about 6 years ago. One of my hobbies, interests, performance skills that I was trying to keep sharp was doing cover songs and being a songwriter. I'm that kind of lazy performer who is a singer first and foremost, and I learned just enough basic guitar and ukulele to be able to accompany myself. For the first several years that I had this channel, the main function that it served was just like helping me practice my music, online archive of the songs that I was playing, and it served a really helpful role just for my mental health in terms of, you know, I was doing more active pursuing of my theater career at that time. So a lot of my creativity was in the form of very regimented things, very strictly scheduled projects that I had to do in a certain way, relied on for some form of like compensation and, you know, making money. That was the making money side of my career, as opposed to then the YouTube. It just became a very loosey-goosey, free form. I posted whatever I wanted to, whenever I wanted, and that was really helpful for a long time. And then the way that my channel is sort of functioning right now, summer of 2022, I moved into this new place with my girlfriend, and it's sort of a period of like new stability for me. Like I work from home and I've got a good schedule and I've got the time to invest in this hobby that I've always been more curious about doing more, which is just like my general overall YouTube nerdery. I watch a lot of YouTube. I'm really inspired by a lot of the creators on here. So the idea had been rattling around in my head for several years of like, what if I tried more? What if I experimented with like some version of consistency? What if I experimented with making more of the different types of videos that I like to watch? So just a challenge that I'm doing for myself this year is, since September of 2022, so about 4 months ago, my goal is that I'm trying to be posting something every single week. Really, really cool challenge. I'm having a really, really good time with it. So that's what I'm in the middle of doing right now, is like weekly videos for at least this year, just to ask myself whether or not I even enjoy it, or, you know, if by the end of the year I'm gonna say to myself, oh, thank God that's over and I don't have to create consistently anymore. So far, I'm having a really good time with it. It's been a really interesting learning experience. And in terms of, you know, if I were to interpret this question as, Chloe, why are you doing the BookTube newbie challenge? I really admire and appreciate the community here on BookTube. I value connection really just in all of my artistic experiences and endeavors as a reader, as a viewer, as a listener, and as a creator, performer, sharer. As far as I'm concerned, it's all just about connection. It's all just about, you know, we're all on a rock spinning in space and we're all gonna die one day alone. And so to have the opportunity to connect with each other along the way is just what I think we're here for. Hi, Existential Joy with Chloe. Welcome to Chloe's Existential Joy channel. Yeah, I'm making the type of stuff that I like to watch, and watching booktube videos has been a really big part of my further cultivation of my own passion for reading and a really comforting aspect of community. This is just a really cool place, and I want to say hi and introduce myself and humbly offer my silly little offerings to this community because I think it's a really, really cool place. So that's why I'm doing this. Question number 2, what are some fun and unique things you can bring to BookTube? So I'm gonna push back against this just slightly. I certainly don't mean any disrespect in the following criticism, but I do just want to offer a bit of pushback against the use of the word fun in this question. I feel like one of the most unique things about BookTube in particular is that being fun necessarily, or some version of like entertaining or extra or attention grabbing, that's not a prerequisite for BookTube at all in terms of, you know, hobbies and niche passion interests, online communities. I feel like this is a place almost more than any other where you can bring something really unique and not necessarily traditionally fun to offer, and there's an audience for it. Like you find your fellow like-minded nerds who are really into that thing. A couple of creators that I really enjoy and who, again, I hope I don't offer any disrespect to in suggesting that fun isn't necessarily the first word that I would think of when I think of these creators. Cozywriting.channel, exactly what it says on the tin. It's cozy. It's not necessarily where I go for like fun, upbeat, you know, content entertainment. It's where I go to watch like really well produced, really high quality, really soothing, really lovely reading sprints. Another channel that I discovered fairly recently is Hannah's Books. The amount of research and intelligence and experience, the videos have this lovely soothing tone, criminally underviewed, that is just so chock full of incredible information. And I'll stop with this rant, but I just want to push back a little bit on the premise of the question on its face, just in terms of that use of the word fun. If you are someone out there who really enjoys BookTube and has maybe ever watched a video like this and thought to yourself, well, I'm not fun, so I couldn't do BookTube. Yes, you can. There's a place in this wide internet for everyone, and you don't have to be fun, whatever your idea of the word fun is, in order to have something really valid to contribute. Excuse me, let me just step down off of my soapbox. I apologize for that little rant. Back to the actual sort of point of the question. Some of the unique things that I do have to offer. On this channel, you're always gonna get that gay flavor. You're always gonna get that trans energy. You're always gonna get that queer point of view.
I'm not a man, right? But I'm also not a woman. I'm a vibe.
What else did I say about how fascinating I am? I talk a lot about mental health, taking care of yourself, anti-consumerism, sprinkling anti-consumerism over your day. I rarely buy books. A lot of my reading choices are just influenced by whatever random stuff I find at the library and whatever the people in my various book clubs are reading. In terms of how that influences my reading choices, I can guarantee you that like this is a channel that you should follow if you like to be introduced to books that you've never heard of before. Next question, what are you most excited about for this new channel? Again, just connection and community. That really is just my whole bread and butter and my jam. Very much what I'm here for is finding other bookish people to hang out with in this little corner of the internet. Next question, why do you love reading? These were probably some of the first like concepts that really like crystallized in my brain as a kid in terms of like a way to move through the world and like a thing that made sense for my brain. And I'm really, really grateful that books gave me some clarity on these ideas from a really, really young age, appreciating right away that like, oh, reading books is a way to slow down. It's always felt sometimes very fast in my brain. It's always felt sometimes very cluttered in my brain. Reading a book forces you to slow down, forces you to focus, forces you to be present. When I was a kid, I didn't know words like mindfulness, but I knew that reading a book would help my brain calm down a little bit. The other thing from like, again, like it really crystallized for me when I was a child, and it's still remained pretty true, that it just feels so intimate. It's just, again, the word connection comes up with me a lot. As a kid who didn't have the many social skills that I have now. Oh no. As a kid who felt particularly lacking in social skills, in ways to connect with people in my day-to-day life, I distinctly remember finding the aspect of book reading that felt like intimate connection with the author. The concept of message in a bottle always really hit deeply for me. That's part of what I love about YouTube also. I'm really inspired by this platform, this community of YouTube being a place where someone can put something out there and maybe nobody is ever going to see it. Maybe thousands of people are going to see it. But even just in the creating of the thing, the expression of the thing, the creator of the video is getting something out of that, right? And similarly, I think that a lot of writers have in common that passion of, I am getting something edifying out of this, something clarifying, something cathartic out of just the experience of writing this. Even if no one ever reads it, but hopefully someone will read it. You know, the tree falling in a forest, you know, what is a video if no one watches it? What is a book if no one reads it? Like the loop is completed only when the video comes to life, when it's seen in front of someone. The book becomes a different thing when it's actually read by someone and interpreted by someone. And I remember being a kid, I don't remember what the book was, but I remember the experience, some particular line, some particular section, being hit with this wave of understanding that like, whoa, this writer wrote something down and it like meant something to them when they wrote it down, but then like I read it and it meant something to me too. And like, that's like a connection now that like we have as like reader and writer. And everybody else who has also read this book will also have some sort of like experience with like what we read. And we all read it, but like we all read it differently. Cause like nobody else is reading that line while sitting in this tree looking at that sunset. And I don't know what anybody else's experience was like reading it too.
Whoa.
Books helped me first start to think big picture about like my place, you know? When I was a kid, those were some of the first thoughts that also started to make sense for me in terms of like being a performer, using my voice and music as a form of like self-identity and self-expression and creating and bonding with an audience and bonding with collaborators. Books was the first way as a kid that it also started to really make sense to me in terms of it doesn't just have to be a big shared performative thing. It can also be a very small and intimate thing. I'm not doing a good job keeping this succinct. I just get too excited talking about books. Oh, and then yeah, while on the childhood topics, the what book or series got you into reading? I could tell a sad, sad tale of being somebody who was really into Harry Potter and then had their heart broken when the author turned out to be a raging transphobe. Fact is that long before I ever identified as a Ravenclaw, there was plenty of other stuff that got me into reading. All the same like series, I'm sure that all the other young readers my age were into. Goosebumps, Nancy Drew, the Ramona books by Beverly Cleary. The first really big like author that I remember having a huge impression on me was Avi. A-V-I, Avi. Do you recognize any of the book covers that are on the screen right now? Leave me a comment below. What Avi books did you read? I recently reread The True Confessions of Charlotte Doyle and wept. Reaching back through a time capsule to my 12-year-old self and embracing them and telling them everything's gonna be okay. What questions would you ask your favorite booktubers? Are you okay? Are you okay? Are you still having fun? Or is like the booktube, YouTube, social media, algorithm, influencer pressure getting to you? What are the ways in which you think YouTube is a good place for bookish community, and what are the ways in which you think this platform or the format here or the parameters in which you have to work, what are the ways in which you think YouTube is maybe a limiting place for just like reading fellowship in general, or like for you specifically as a creator? Are there ways in which you feel limited by YouTube as a platform? Have you ever considered making a video about your insights as a creator on this platform in the bookish community specifically? What advice would you share with other people who are interested in creating for booktube, creating in this space? But mostly, honestly, just like, are you okay? For myself individually, and for the other people in my day-to-day life who also watch booktube, I feel concerned that I don't want y'all pushing yourselves too hard. I don't want there to be a huge amount of pressure either from viewers who love the work that you make and thus have a certain expectation or demand. And I wonder also just how much pressure there is to be felt from just like the algorithm, the pressure to like try to meet the standards of, the expectations of, the elusive, mysterious bullshit algorithm, like how frustrating it must be to try to create to the whims of something that is so nebulous as the algorithm. And of course also just like the performers, the people in the theater community deal with this a lot too, where like, you know, there's a certain amount of hindsight that comes with getting what you always wanted. When you get to the point where you're like making money for your art changes, your creativity changes, your relationship to the thing changes once it is something upon which you depend for your livelihood. So I would just hope that, and I know that a lot of my IRL friends who watch this kind of content hope that the booktubers that we love are taking care of themselves. Like, we would certainly much rather that you be like just taking care of yourself generally as a person, as a well-rounded human body and person with probably diversified interests. But I can imagine that like no amount of individual tiny viewers who are so much less powerful than the almighty algorithm and like trying to appeal to masses. I just wonder how my favorite bookish creators are doing with that, and I hope that you all feel okay. Oh, which is then a perfect segue into, yeah, what challenges do you think doing booktube will be the hardest to overcome for you? Hey guys, it's voiceover Chloe. Jumping in to summarize because the video has been going on for a while, I know, and I'm trying to, you know, be conscious of the time. And honestly, I ended up just in this moment that I was filming it, having some really good, like, reflective kind of talk therapy time with the camera, and that was helpful for me and for my brain. But if we want to get more in depth on this topic sometime in the future, I'll just make another standalone video about it. I ended up kind of tying this answer into also answering the next question about when did you start reading, because really, like, my whole broad strokes kind of story, to put it simply, is I was one of those people who read a ton when I was a kid and a teenager, then kind of through college. Then for me, things got dark in my 20s. Those were the repressed years, the depressed years, the drinking years. I either wasn't reading or was reading upsetting stuff deliberately to upset myself. About 3.5 years ago, though, I came out. I found a great therapist. I started on the path that I'm on now, and part of that experience, thankfully, was starting to slowly get back into a healthy relationship with reading, which was really helpful. When 2020 hit and we were all in lockdown, that's when I really started getting back into a consistent reading habit that is basically what's carried through to today. That was also when I started kind of getting into watching some booktube stuff, was in the last couple years. So yeah, my overall kind of context about my history as a reader is that this current reading pattern I'm in has been cultivated over the last few years, sort of getting out of that slump that was my depressed, drunken 20s. And the way that this all ties into the question about what challenges will you face doing booktube, for me, it's all about the brain challenges, the mental health, baby. I, on the one hand, want to start challenging myself to read more and to broaden the types of books that I am capable of reading, but I also just really need to be careful. I don't want to push myself too hard, either by forcing myself through content that, like, triggers unhealthy feelings, or simply by reading so much for the hashtag content that I feel pressured and lose the joy of reading. I feel like that's something that a lot of people talk about when this question comes up. So yeah, for me, I just gotta protect the mental health, and I don't think that it'll be a challenge, but we'll see how it goes. Thank you in advance for keeping me accountable if it ever comes to that. All right, let's jump back into live action Chloe. What kind of books do you like to read? My main comfort for a long time was fan fiction. The perfect gateway drug from fan fiction, making the jump into reading real books again, reading published books again. Queer contemporary romance. I read a lot. I want lesbian rom-coms. I want predictable, fun little tropes. I want, and then the happy lesbians. We're happily ever after. We're happily ever after.
Oh, and then the happy lesbians were happy.
That's very much like my balm for my spirit. That shit just makes me feel really, really good. In particular, I find a lot of the books that I enjoy the most through the authors who do online self-publishing through like Kindle Unlimited and direct to like online e-publishing stuff. I just find self-publishing to be fascinating, and I think that those authors are badasses for making shit happen. And I just really dig the world of romance, and in particular queer romance, being such a cool place. You know, you take the structure of the thing, you got the tropes, you got the key points that everybody expects to have hit in a certain way in terms of, you know, the predictability, the respect of the form. And then within that though, like each author can find so many places to get so creative and to make such unique little choices. I'm fascinated by that shit. In my how many books I read last year video that I posted a little bit ago, more than half of the books that I read last year were lesbian romances. But that video also did show me that I am starting to have success with branching out a little bit. I'm getting a little bit more comfortable with reading poetry. I'm getting a little bit more comfortable with reading nonfiction. Sort of balance that is being struck these days is at any given time, I'm always reading some queer romance. That is the standard that must always be there, so that then if at any given time I'm having a bad day and need to pull the escape pod, the fire alarm of like, somebody please get me out of here and help me have a better day, there's always at least one queer romance in rotation. And then at the same time, I can also be reading some more challenging book that is like a nonfiction that I'm interested in, or that is something that was picked for a book club, and that's been a really good way to start to challenge myself a little bit. I'm really excited about it. Where do you read? There's this cozy spot in the garage where I sit on my wicker furniture with the fairy lights and I listen to the rain outside and it goes pitter pitter patter. And there's this cozy corner of my couch where I sit with my candles, and there's this cozy spot propped up with my pillows in my bed. Sometimes when the weather is nice, I'll take a book out to the park so that I can sit in the grass. I also just really like having digital books on my phone, so that wherever I am, if I'm just like on a bus for longer than I thought that I would be, or if I'm stuck in the line at like the pharmacy or something like that. Part of how it's been helpful for me to jump into types of books that have maybe been too challenging for me in the past is like, if I'm gonna be sitting somewhere for 10 minutes anyway, and I have the book right there on my phone, then it's easy to be able to say to myself, well, I'll just do one chapter and that will help me make progress through things. So honestly, yeah, just anywhere. My dream reading scenario in terms of location and coziness and vibes is always somewhere with a blanket and some tea while it's raining outside. I'm a Pacific Northwest person, and so the rain falling brings me a lot of serotonin. Oh my gosh, are we almost done? Oh my gosh, we're almost done. What does your book collection I made a lot of notes, and at this section, what does your book collection look like? I just did a little ellipses. What the fuck am I supposed to say? I very rarely buy books. I have, I'm looking over at my tiny shelf. I think I own like 5 books right now. Here, taking my phone right now and taking a little picture. Here I'm sitting with you, and here directly off camera is my little book section. Just a couple ambient lights and a few novels. This section right here is like my small collection of novels. It's honestly just like one series that I've been slowly working my way through for the last like year and a half. The bulk of my book collection, honestly, is just that I've kept every journal that I've ever written in since I was like 12. I haven't felt the need to buy or own or keep with me many books over the course of my life. I'm a little bit more, the experience of reading the thing is the important thing, and as time goes on, if there are books that really stick with you enough that you remember them and you want to reread them, then you remember them and you reread them. And if you don't remember them, then you didn't need to reread them. This is some of my, hopefully, fingers crossed, last period of like small apartment living that I'll be doing in my life. The ideal goal is that sometime in the next few years, my girlfriend and I are gonna be moving, and that will hopefully be the beginning of the era of us like house hunting, trying to figure out that, forever home situation. And in my forever home, one day I do aspire to be like all you awesome booktube people who have like, the tall IKEA shelves and the rainbow spines. I would love to be that type of person in the future when I have the space. Definitely when I have an opportunity to actually accrue more books in the future. Again, it will be less about a mindset of collecting, and it will be more about a mindset of like having a personal library that like when I have people over and they are hanging out with me me having coffee in the room with all the books and they say, oh, this title is one I've never heard of before, I'll be able to say, oh, take it. And like, you know, I don't care if you ever give it back or if you don't give it back for a long time, just take it and enjoy it. My highest aspiration in the future home will be to have a great big stockpile of books to share with others, to, you know, spread the gospel of like all of my favorite books. In the meantime though, I'm just, you know, a broke millennial who has always lived in shitty apartments. My habits have always been to not accrue a ton of stuff in general, but certainly books. I've always found some comfort in the sort of like, it's felt sort of zen to just sort of like let books pass through me, you know? It comes to me in whatever means it comes to me, random recommendation or thing that was on the shelf at the library. I read it, I have the experience with it, and then I move on from it. And it moves on from me and it continues on its journey. I've never felt super compelled to have a collection to keep. Who's to say? Who's to say if maybe like 3 years from now, we aren't all still hanging out in this little channel community and I am in my forever home and I get to post my first video of like
Setting up my shelves.
and, you know, we all get to party in the comments about like, oh, Chloe, I remember back when you said that you were not even interested in having books and you never thought that you would have space for all these books. Won't that be fun? Won't that be fun? Let's do that. I don't remember if anybody ever really technically included this topic in the booktube newbie questions. Like technically, I guess that's kind of the last question, the final question. But I always find it really helpful in these videos to also just like discuss the other creators that you're really impacted by. This type of video should be all about like, you know, celebrating the community, right? So some of the bigger, more known creators that I follow that you probably also follow if you're watching this video. Carrie Can Read, Allison Pages, Uncarly, Jack Edwards, Jordaline Reads, Fictional Fates. And then I would love to just quickly give a shout out to some of the just like inexplicably underviewed channels that are so fabulous and that I think you should go follow right now. If you are still here watching, please go subscribe to these channels and come back and leave a comment saying like, oh my gosh, I went and followed this person and I'm so glad I did. That would make me so happy. Let's boost these channels. They really deserve more attention. Nicola Reads is the Australian version of Allison Pages. If you love Allison Pages, you are going to love Nicola Reads. You could start the same way that I did, which is watching the video that Nicola did of reading Allison Pages' favorite books. As Michaela is a self-described Allison Stan account, you will have a fabulous time on that channel. I highly recommend that you go subscribe right now. Reading This Life. Reading This Life is such a prolific creator. I do not know how this person finds the time to be just posting as many videos as frequently as they do. I highly recommend you check out, she has a huge playlist that is all about supporting small booktubers. And she also has a ton of other content that is about like finding tags that you've probably never heard of about bookish topics. So that's a great way to find even more channels that you'd want to support. And specifically her playlist that is all about like deliberately, you know, the sole purpose is to support small booktubers. I think that you will love that series. You'll have a great time on that channel. And then Reading Aster, probably the algorithm only suggested Reading Aster to me because we're both fucking just queer nerdy book nerds, but he's been creating for less than a year, I think. It's just such a cozy channel. It's very just sit on the couch, intimate, as if you're having tea with a friend. They in particular are really on top of the gay book topics. This is a channel where you're going to be hearing about queer books that you've never heard of before. I insist that you subscribe to Reading Aster if for no other reason than to express your appreciation for the Killing Eve related bookish topics. Just inspired. We made it to the end. I bet this was longer than 20 minutes and I apologize for that. I apologize to you. I apologize to me. Even if you are not a creator, if you are just someone who watches videos like this with the newbie tag and any of the questions speak to you, feel welcome to use the comment section below. You know, enjoy answering these questions. Like maybe you're never going to make a video like this, but maybe you would like to have a little bit of time to showcase and celebrate in the comment section. Like what was the book or the series that got you into reading when you were a kid? Or, you know, how long have you been reading? What has your recent experience been like in terms of like, you know, journey of adulthood and like, you know, falling in and out of reading? Are there any particular like bookish goals that you have for this year that you would like to shout yourself out for below? Or like, you know, how was your reading month for January? Like any of that type of stuff that you would like to talk about below, but maybe feel like you don't have a place to discuss because you don't have a YouTube channel and you're not going to do the booktube newbie tag, fucking do it below. I think that'd be awesome. I would love to read that from you. If you are a creator, if you are on YouTube, or if you create in any of the other spaces on the internet where people talk about books, I'd love to support your work. Again, one of the things that I really like to nerd out about here on YouTube is I think it's really cool when people take a shot in the dark and start a YouTube channel about whatever they're passionate about. And I really like to follow small creators. The less than 1,000 subscribers club, rise up, rise up. If you are a creator of any size, but certainly especially if you are a small creator, give yourself a pat on the back. I would love to follow your work and we can celebrate all the little victories along your journey. If you feel up to it, I have some links below in the description box. I try to always include just some general mental health resources if you're having a tough day. And I also just try to include some links about organizations that you can support or share or just learn more about, just little ways that we can try to make the world slightly less shitty, right? In particular, in that section below, right now I'm highlighting a GoFundMe search. I just went to GoFundMe and I did a search for top surgery. You can click on the link below and it'll take you to the page of like a lot of people's actively running campaigns for their top surgeries. I am getting top surgery in a few weeks here, and I'm lucky to be in a pretty privileged position. You know, I have a job, I have insurance, I have a family that supports me. I'm going into debt, but you know, that's what payment plans are for. Overall, my position is one of privilege and I'm not in dire need of financial assistance myself. But if you are someone who, like me, as soon as you hear that somebody has like a gender affirming thing going on, you just like to sort of chip in to the global cause of, yes, let's make the world more queer, please. I would highly encourage you to check out that link below if you want to just chip in. If you enjoy mediocre pictures on Instagram, or the cool misadventures of a cool 36-year-old cool kid on TikTok, or gay memes and rambles on Tumblr, then I cordially invite you to hang out with me at your social media location of choice. I am at ChloeThePayne on all the things. Shout out to my patrons, Hiker Steve and Cherry That Tomato. You can check out the description box below for more information about my Patreon, my website, hiring me for commission songwriting services, any of that good stuff. And yeah, if you're still here, I hope that means that you enjoyed the video, and you can hit the like button if you enjoyed the video. Subscribe to the channel. It is a particularly beneficial time, I think, to hit the notification bell, since I will be taking that hiatus here for a bit after the surgery, and then you'll know when I'm back. I think that's it. We have reached the end of my long and rambling notes. I can't believe that we got to sit and make this video. This has been on my bucket list for a long, long time. And even if nobody watches this has been very fun just for myself to sit and reflect. I appreciate you. I appreciate you sticking around this long in the video if you're still here. How kind of you. I think the booktube is really, really awesome, and I really appreciate how much I get out of it. It is such a fabulous place of discussion and community and creativity. So if nothing else, I hope that this silly little video can be my small offering back to this fun little place on the internet that has given me a lot. Thank you very much for the opportunity to make this silly little video and share it. That is it from me for now. I will see you next time. Take care of yourselves and take care of each other. And now we get to do an end card. Oh, I found the hair that's been tickling me. Thank God. I really need to cut this hair. It's been getting too long and shaggy. Check me out on TikTok and Instagram after the top surgery. That will be your main source of slutty shirtless content. One of the first things I think I'm going to be posting over there fairly soon is I just need to shave the sides of this head. It's getting too long and fuzzy. My sensory issues are struggling. Good times. Anyway, click the links.